Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. We've got a special episode for you on a Monday night, as opposed to our usual Friday night. And just like a Friday night, I am still sat here waiting for my co-host, Mr. Hooley, who is notoriously late for the show. But yes, it's going to be an excellent show with our guest tonight. We've got a guest who has been writing sagas of Viking series, which I love. I haven't read his books yet, but we've been chatting pre-show about that. They're going to be on my TBR very soon. And he has won in 2022 the Kindle Storyteller Award, which we've talked about on the show recently. You may have seen a couple of our ads, and we're going to be getting into that. So I, on the show right now, I'm going to leave Chris Hooley a live message to see if he realizes, and this is a first as well. Hello, Chris. Do you realize we've just gone live? The show is at 7:30. I hope you do realize that. As you said, you realize the time and you need to hurry up. So there you go. So there's my message to him live. You all heard that, and we'll hold him to account. So let me get tonight's guest on straight away, and that way you can get involved with the conversation as well, and he will turn up when he likes to turn up. So tonight's guest is living proof that passion, perseverance, and a good Viking battle scene can change your life. He's the author behind the action-packed Viking Blood and Blade saga, the Saxon Warrior series, and the Chronicles of Arthur. And in 2022, he was crowned the winner of the prestigious Kindle Storyteller Award, taking home a £20,000 prize. He discovered Kindle Direct Publishing during the pandemic, and in just over a year, between raising 3 kids and working full-time in financial services, he wrote and published 4 historical fiction novels that captured the imaginations of readers worldwide. He's a fan of Bernard Cornwell and David Gemmell and all things epic. And tonight he's here to share how self-publishing helped him unlock the author career he's always dreamed of. So please give a nice warm welcome to the brilliant Peter Gibbons. Hello, Peter.
Hey there.
Thank you so
much. Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. I can't wait to chat about everything you've been through, because it's a wonderful journey.
Thanks.
Yeah. How are you doing today? How are you dealing with the heat?
Good. I'm suffering with it, but enjoying it. Suffering it while I'm working, but enjoying being sat out in it with a drink, if you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not working weather, let's put it that way.
It's certainly not. And we talked about this just before you came on, but you're sat in a wonderful writing shed, which I'm very jealous of. Have you kitted that out with aircon? I mean, that's not a very British thing to do.
No. Well, I've kitted it out with the most rudimentary aircon known to man, which is one of them kind of 20 quid white fans. Yeah. It kind of just blows the hot air around the room, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So for all the people watching and the people who watch this back and listen back, whereabouts are you coming from? Where are you joining us from tonight?
I live in Kildare, County Kildare in Ireland, with my wife and 3 children in a small village called Calverstown. But before that, I was born and grew up in Warrington in the northwest. But I've been living in Ireland now for about 18 years, something like that. And I'm desperately clinging to my my original accent.
Yeah, I bet. Is that an accent the locals struggled to understand when you first moved there?
Not really, because I think up north we kind of talk quite slow, whereas the Irish people kind of talk quite fast. So it's not a hard one. It's not a hard one to understand.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm always intrigued to know that, you know, as a writer, whether it be an indie author or a traditionally published or highly successful traditionally published New York Times bestseller, if they engage in like a local writing community, and the answer generally is no. But is that the case for you?
Yeah, it is the case. Yeah, when I first started out, I engaged with kind of an online writing community, like a writing group, because you know when you first start going, it's a strange thing, isn't it? It's a very personal thing, and your big worry is that what you're writing is rubbish. Yeah. And you don't want to show it to everyone. So that was a really good way of kind of, you know, you'd send a chapter, say there's 6 people in the group, somebody would read it and give you feedback and stuff like that, and you would do the same for them. But in the early days, that really kind of helped me to understand that what I was writing was rubbish, and then start tweaking it and making it better. But no, there's no writing groups here that I'm like, there probably is, but there's none that I'm aware of or that I participate in, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I said, I think that is the case for most people. And, being authors, we often spend a lot of time in these seats and in the shed. So mingling is not always the case for that. So the online sort of communities, what the show's built on is kind of the way to go. So for your time engaging with those online communities, were there any sort of real good bits of advice you remember from that community that helped you?
Yeah, I think there was. I think some of the key bits were around the big thing for me in the early days was the naivety of wanting to have a go at writing something, but without any kind of skill or experience in the craft. So I always thought I had good ideas for stories. So I'd write something and it would just be a mess in terms of no plan or structure or anything like that. And through the writing community, I understood quickly that I needed to learn more. And it was on the back of that then really I wrote like a what was then kind of a first cut of my first book, Viking Blood and Blade, but it was like 150,000 words, kind of crazy, kind of meandering mess with like 7 point of view characters and stuff. And I actually got a paid for a structural edit on that manuscript, and that was what really changed everything for me, because the structural edit came back and she was kind of like, this is good, but all these things are bad. So cut this out, cut that out. And I ended up whittling that down then to about 110,000 words and cutting a good, only having 2 point of view characters. But then understanding, I'd never been exposed or understood what story structure was, what the 3-act structure is, what Save the Cat is, or any of those kind of things. So I was just writing away. So that was really the big game changer for me, was understanding, plot and story structure. And once I understood that was a big game changer. But I wouldn't have got there without the kind of writing community, Sorry, I've lost your audio there, CJ.
Yeah. Sorry, I had muted myself. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that would really get taken back by that thought of, hi Chris, by that thought of having to restructure and take a lot of that work away. How did you first feel when that information was brought to you, and then did you use it as like a constructive force to take that forward, or was it a bit kind of nerve-wracking?
Yeah, hi Chris. I kind of, at first I felt bad because I'd spent so much time writing this thing, and I thought it was kind of a great or an interesting story with good characters and all that, but it was all over the place. Like they go from here to there, and there was no real kind of structure. So at first I was kind of gutted to get the feedback, but then it was really kind of a launch pad then to start learning about all these bits and pieces and learning about structure.
Yeah.
Chopped up that first book then and made it work, but then used that as a platform for all my subsequent releases. So that was just a massive game changer for me in terms of planning. Instead of just being a pantser, it was more like planning then, not rigidly, but making sure that I kind of followed. So I had an act 1, an act 2, act 3, that I had twists in the right places, that I had an inciting incident, and that I had all these things that you have to keep people's interest in the story.
Absolutely. Hi Chris.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. How are you doing?
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I was on time.
Yes. 7:30 we are starting.
Yeah, which is half an hour earlier. But I'm very glad to be here, and I'm very glad to hear Peter's nice northern accent. It's nice to hear. It's very comforting to me.
Yeah, definitely. We were just talking about the start of his writing, really, and using the writing community online. So what we have established is that Peter, during COVID, set up this amazing writing shed that you sat in. And nice. we chatted about that before we start the show. So Peter, do you want to let everybody know how you started that writing shed up? And, obviously it's been a big asset for your writing since.
Yeah, so I was able, like, obviously I won the Kindle Storyteller Award, and it was the prize money from that really funded the building. But before that, I was kind of writing at the kitchen table before work. And it was after I won the award, then I quit my job and got the cabin built and really became a lot more professional. So since then I've been full time. So I kind of sit out here all day on my own, making up stories,
Nice.
which is great. But without winning the award, I would never have been able to get that going, because it's not an easy thing to go to your other half and ask them to invest savings in a shed for you to go out and indulge your writing dreams in, when there are other things that need doing, like bathrooms need replacing and kitchens need updating and stuff like that, So it was great to win the award and have that prize to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Productive use of COVID, yeah. I mean, I think I put about 3 stone on in COVID, and that was about the only thing that I managed to do. Peter, what made you then take that massive jump? Because you said there about quitting your job, building the shed, getting down to it every day, brass tacks, I'm just going to start writing. What made you take that leap of faith?
Well, I'd written the novel that won the Storyteller Award was my 4th novel. But it was called King of War. So by that time, I'd obviously written 3, and they were going quite well on the KDP service. They were selling well. But at the time, I had a job where I worked for a big financial services company, and I was responsible for kind of international sales. So I did a lot of traveling and stuff. And I've got a family. I've got 3 kids and a wife, and you can't just quit your job on a whim when you've got responsibilities. So it was only really when we went to the award ceremony, my wife and I went to London for the award, the Kindle Storyteller Award ceremony. And before that time, I'd never met writers before, because probably a bit like you guys, when you're growing up and in your background, none of your friends or people you socialize with are writers. They're all just people who have kind of normal jobs. So that was the first time I'd ever met other writers. And I met a few kind of successful crime authors like J.D. Kirk, who I know you guys have had on, and a few other guys. And they were just like, nah, you have to quit and get it going, because it is the frequency of releases does really help drive the income, So I did. And luckily she was with me and able to buy into that, because these guys were kind of selling what the opportunity was. And that's what really did it then, and everything took off from there then,
So we know that the Amazon KDP Kindle Storyteller Award is something that has massive potential. I mean, winning £20,000 is huge for any author. We know how much it costs to get basic things done as an author. So let everyone know just about how difficult that process is, what made you take that step in the first place?
How difficult it is to get the book finished, you mean, or
just to enroll? I mean, I'm saying difficult, but it really isn't, is it?
No, it's like, so when you set your when you're engaging with Amazon KDP with their service, you have your manuscript and you have your cover, and you load that stuff up, whether you use Kindle Create or whatever it might be, and you load it into the platform. For people who don't know, you have to set on your kind of setup pages, you have to set up a certain amount of categories that your book will appear in, and then some keywords. And what they're really around is what people will search for on Amazon. So say if it's my books, they'd be searching for historical fiction, or, Viking books, or books about Vikings, or books with battles in, and variations on that. And all you have to do to enter the award is you use Kindle Storyteller, and whatever year it is, so what Kindle Storyteller 2025 now, as one of your keywords. I think you get 8 keywords, something like that. And that's literally all you have to do. So you have to put keywords in anyway. And all you have to do to enter is put one of them as the Kindle Storyteller Award. And then you're in the competition. And if you're not successful afterwards, you can just change it out and put another keyword in. So and I was surprised. So I did that. This was my 4th book. So I just put it in because it was within the release window, which I can't remember what it was. But at the time, I think it was March to September or something. And then I was surprised then 3 or 4 months later to see that I was on kind of the shortlist, because obviously there's a lot of books entering. A lot of them are kind of in big genres like crime and romance and all that kind of stuff. So I was really surprised to see my kind of historical fiction book in there,
So tell me then, when you first did that, did you have any expectation that you would make that shortlist?
No, I did it because I thought it would garner visibility, because I knew that Amazon were kind of pushing the competition and they have their own page. And I kind of thought if people were searching through it, it'd just be another way for them to see my book, just a piece of like a bit of free marketing, you know?
Yeah.
But I had no ambition. So I was delighted to get onto the shortlist. And then I got a call then from kind of the top man at Amazon a little while later to say that I was on like the final shortlist of 5 or whatever, and that I was to go to London for the award, which was kind of crazy. Yeah, and I was up against a couple of really good crime books, like a lesbian romance book and a pure romance book. So I thought I had no chance, no chance of winning.
And that's
in the book that was up there, King of Wars, like the central thing in it is like this huge battle on a fjord in Denmark called the Battle of Hafrsfjord, and there's like a Valkyrie warrior woman in it with one eye and all this kind of crap. So I thought for the judges, they'd be like, couldn't really go from reading a cozy romance or a crime, you know, like you get a UK crime thriller, to reading my book. I thought it was kind of a bridge too far, but that turned out not to be the case, which was great.
And that's really interesting, the fact that it's open to any genre. So the judging panel has to really be able to converse between them how much that book affected them and how to put one book above the other. That must be a very difficult process for them.
It is. And so the following year I was a judge then for the next round, and it's very difficult, because at that point a lot of the books that are kind of at the end of the process, then they're all good, really. It's very hard to choose between them. What you're really looking for is kind of something that resonates with you, good characters, good story, you know, like what you want to read yourself when you're reading a book. You don't want to be reading something boring. You want something kind of impactful and something that stays with you, you know.
Definitely.
So take us back then, if you can, to that moment when you're on the shortlist, because I can imagine myself in that moment. I'd be buying those books straight away, reading the competition, going, what am I up against?
Yeah.
And then what was the process like there in terms of being on that final 5 and that journey through going to the award ceremony and stuff?
So you kind of got the notification that you were down to the, I think I still have the thing. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So I have kind of the thing actually there. They were the final 5. I actually stole that from the event on the evening. It was like that was there. So it was me. It was The Woman in Room 19, which was like a murder mystery. City of Scars by J.D. Kirk. Midsummer House by Rachel Lucas, which I think is like a cozy romance. And then it started with A Kiss by Claire Lydon, which is a lesbian romance novel. So I was up against them. So yeah, so I did buy them and read them. And obviously JD is a great writer. So when I read his book, I was like, nah, that's it. Not happening. So we just went. So my wife and I just went. It was at the Houses of Parliament in London. Nice. So Amazon arranged for a hotel and everything. It was great, and never experienced anything like it. Went to the evening, met loads of writers for the first time. Like I'd never met writers before, like I said, and it was a real eye opener. Because you know, and I'm probably speaking out of turn a bit, but you expect writers to be a bit arty-farty, don't you? And that they're going to be kind of a bit aloof and have tweed jackets on and twirly moustaches and stuff. But no, everybody was really normal and really nice, and it was good. So we got up to the thing, and they went through all the ceremony, and then when they read out that I was the winner, it was a surprise to say the least. So yeah, and I was blown away. I was blown away by it. It was unbelievable, and it turned out all the judges had really enjoyed the story because it was so different, I suppose, to what they'd read before, and like that, there's really distinctive characters in it, and yeah, so it was thrilling. And then like that, what people probably don't realize is it's not just the cash prize you get when you win the award. You also get like a marketing support package. So Amazon do loads of nice things for you, like they put your book on there. I think you get like an editor's choice page. They do all kinds of different things to promote your book, and that probably in the grand scheme of sending my series into greater sales was probably worth more than the cash prize, because people then went back and started reading book 1, 2, and 3, and it really lifted up the series. Because as you know, I know you guys are both self-published as well. Like, the hardest thing is trying to get visibility, right?
Yeah. It is one of the most, well, it is almost, if not more difficult than writing the book in the first place. So it is a huge, massive prize. But I was going to say, having that 4-book collection to win it on the 4th book must have been a really good thing for you in that series. Then, as you mentioned, people were going back to read the rest of the series. So, it's great to enter this with a debut book or with a series. Either way, I think whatever stage you're at, this is a great competition to enter. And as Peter said, it's so simple to do just by putting that keyword in. Yeah, absolutely.
I just think that when I look back, I just think for the sake that it's only one keyword, just stick it in there, and like that. If you don't get down to the shortlist, you can just switch it out in September.
Did you find, Peter, that it put more pressure on you though after you'd won such a big award, and you knew obviously that new influx of readers was coming? Did it put more pressure on the next book?
Yeah, it did, but also then because I'd gone from having a salary, like I'd always had like a job with a salary to buy food and clothe children so they don't end up in the workhouse, and to go from that then to be relying on your royalties was squeaky bum time, for want of a better phrase, But yeah, like that, luckily the award kind of brought readers in, and so when I released the book after that, the pre-orders did really well, and it continued on from there. So I've 10 so far in that original series, and I've a series of 3 kind of prequels on the go now, and then I've a series of 4 thrillers under a different pen name, like action thrillers. So yeah, I'm just going at it every day like I used to work. I just come out here and try and aim for 4,000 words a day. And that's it. I just work like I used to work, kind of just work all day until it's done.
So can you talk us through the differences then? Because obviously a lot of people may be in a similar boat to you in terms of they're working, they're writing, but they've got their job that they need to go to, and they may be writing at the kitchen table. What is the sort of major learning curves that you've had from making that transition to somebody who is writing every day or whenever you could around your job to then working full-time as a writer, going in your shed, finding the motivation there? Because I should imagine they're quite different experiences that you have to try and motivate yourself for.
Yeah, and that's a good question, Chris, because it is a weird thing. When you're writing, I used to get up really early and write before work. That was my whole thing, was I'd get up early and try and bang out a couple of hours before the kids woke up. And that kind of makes you really disciplined and focused, and throughout the day then and in the evenings, you're kind of thinking about what you're going to write the next day. And in 2 hours, you can actually write quite a lot. If you have a plan and you know that you're going to be writing X scene in chapter, whatever it is, you can be really focused. Whereas when you're doing it every day, you can let yourself slip a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got all day to do it. So sometimes it was difficult at first to try and be disciplined and stick to it every day. Whereas I try and be a bit more like I used to be these days, and that I come out and start hammering it out kind of straight away, because the mornings for me are always the best time to get the words done, and then leave the other stuff like editing and accounts and marketing to the afternoons.
There you go. And did you find as well that once you'd met all those writers that, like you said, you'd never met any before, did that sort of add to your productivity, and what sort of things did they bring to the table that helped you be a better writer?
It definitely helped me with the ambition and to see what was possible when I saw what they were doing and what they were selling and the opportunity that was out there in self-publishing. Because when I originally started, I didn't know anything about self-publishing. I just, like with my first manuscript, I was sending that off to agents and publishers in its original form, which was crap. So obviously I was getting no pickup from that. And then it was only after I understood about self-publishing that really changed my life. But like that, and then when I met those authors, I was kind of blown away that it was possible to make a living and to be successful if you could be disciplined. So I kind of felt like then I was chasing them to try and make that dream work. Do you know what I mean? Because what I understood after meeting those guys was there's a few key elements you have to kind of get right. So you've got to have your book cover on point. You've got to take some pride in your manuscript, get it properly edited, so get a copy edit and a proofread on it. You've got to have your marketing right, so make sure that your categories and your keywords are right for your book, and that your cover's on genre. Like you can see the cover I've got up there now, like that's a book that I'm just finishing now that's out later this year. But when you look at that, you know that's going to be there's a million books with a ship on like that, but when you look at that, you know it's going to be about Vikings because it's a Viking ship, and it's no good having a book cover that's kind of great and it's all different. What you don't want, a big thing for me in the early days was you actually don't want your cover to be different. You want it to be the same, so that when people are looking at the thumbnails and they're seeing the big guys, that your book kind of looks like it's similar to them. Do you know what I mean? And then work on your blurb, make sure that's right. It's got the right metadata in. Make sure if a person's reading it that they understand what they're going to get out of the book. And that's it. So I learned a lot meeting those guys, and it took it to a new level in terms of professionalism.
There's a big commonality between the people we've had on this show who have been successful indie authors and yourself, is the way they talk about it being a business and treating it like a business. Not, hoping that book will do well. It's actually putting things in place to make sure that's working in the right direction and working hard at it as well. So there's a message there for everybody. It depends what you want from being an indie author, but if you want that sustainability and that success, it's only going to come from the hard work you put in as well. So
100%. Yeah, the writing is only one part of it. You've really got to invest time understanding the KDP service, understanding Amazon, understanding what can be done to promote your book to give it the best chance of success. Yeah. And it pays off. Like if you can get that right early doors with your first couple of books, then you start getting followers on Amazon, you start getting sign-ups to your mailing list, and it all kind of rolls on from there. So that time spent up front pays dividends then as your series grows. Do you know what I mean?
So Peter, you're talking obviously about the beginning when you were sending out to publishers and stuff. What made you take that jump and say, do you know what, this book is good enough? I'm gonna put it out there myself. What made you do that?
It was kind of the last ditch. Like I'd sent it off to loads of agents and stuff, and nobody really wanted to have any bit of it. And it was probably a bit rough and ready. And if you read my first book now, Viking, Blood and Blade, I've never gone back and re-edited it. So it's still rough and ready. Like you would still find the odd spell. All I got on that, I think, was a copy edit. I couldn't put any more money into it because I'd already bought a cover, paid for a cover design and all that. So I didn't want to invest more money in something that wasn't gonna make any money, do you know? So yeah, and it was I'd been off to age, and then I kind of stumbled across self-publishing, and then I was kind of blown away by the opportunity, and I don't know why I'd never heard of it. I'd actually read self-published books before and not realised. But my mind was blown then. And as you know, there's kind of a million YouTube videos out there of how to do it and what to do and what's possible. So I kind of then started soaking up all that information and put my first book out. And for the first week, I put it for free. So I put Viking, Blood and Blade out, and I was like, right, that's it. This is kind of the last ditch thing. At least people, if anybody wants to read it, I might get a few people reading it, and that'll be great. And I'll put it to bed, because I'd always wanted to be a writer. I always thought I could do it, but it's a weird thing starting to write. It's kind of a bizarre thing to do, is to sit there and write, and you're worried that people are going to be like, "What are you doing, mate? Why are you doing that?" You're like, it's a complete waste of time. It's a strange thing. But I had the thing done. So I thought, right, let's do it. Let's put it out. And that day I kind of went off. I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was bringing 2 of my kids to football or whatever it was. Left the phone in the car, came back and just checked to see. And there'd been loads of free downloads on it. And that kept going then, and reviews started coming in. And then when I put it to paid, I set it for like $2.99 or $3.99, I think it was, and then it took off and sales went really well with that first book. So I went straight into writing the second one, which was a direct follow-up to that book. The first one was kind of set in 865 AD, and it's about kind of the Viking invasion of England and the sack of York and Ivar the Boneless and all that kind of cool stuff. But there's kind of characters within that who have their own problems in that kind of big war, and people seem to resonate with that, you know. And yeah, I was blown away, and it just took off then from there. Like I wouldn't have been surprised if it didn't sell any, to be honest, but it did, and it just kicked on from there.
Do you think that was in timing with anything out at the time? I know you mentioned Bernard Cornwell and the Viking series, and then The Last Kingdom were quite big a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Do you think that book was also well timed to get that kind of attention?
So Vikings was kind of still hot. The original Vikings, you know, with Travis Fimmel, that was kind of only really just out. And there was a few things, like by the time I got to book 3 or 4, The Northman came out. Do you remember that? So it was kind of popular enough at that time. So that kind of, I think really helped. It's like if you was probably releasing a Roman book when Gladiator came out, you know, it's a bit like that, isn't it? But you need a bit of luck, lads, well, don't you? Do you know?
Yeah. And the whole time I've been watching you in that seat there is just to your right, there's a gap between the bookshelf and the wall. And I keep seeing these people on Facebook who do blacksmith work, and they do these amazing Viking axes with inscription and stuff on. I think that would be brilliant. Sat right behind you on the wall there. That's what you need to get there.
I need to get that. I have an idea to get, you know, like a shield or a sword or something made. And when no one's looking, I can go around in the room.
Yeah.
And kind of...
Well, I've got a funny story about the shield. I ordered one on a website a while back, and I expected this lovely decorated shield to turn up, and it turned up to be about this big.
Oh.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So that's sat in my garage now, hidden away.
You know what? I actually saw. Do you know John Gwynne? Do you know he writes like fantasy stuff that's based in like a Norse alternate universe? Great books, actually. If you've never read them, you should give them a try. I'm trying to think of the name of them. You'd know it if you see it, because the cover on it is unreal. It's got like this huge dragon on it and this tiny little guy with a shield and a sword. Anyway, but he had, when he was being interviewed in his room, like a full set of chainmail, a full shield and a full sword. And I was thinking, that is the business, mate. You know, like you can put that on when no one's in.
A few beers on a Friday night in the table. What's one thing then? You must have done a lot of research in regards to the Viking series that you wrote. So what was one thing that really surprised you out of the stories that you read?
I think about the Vikings, the real surprise for me was the daring of it, the daring of what they were able to do. Obviously, they were brutal people, but everybody was at that time. But sometimes I like to try and put myself in their position and try and imagine what it would take to. Have you ever, like, I went on our wedding, it was my 30th birthday, I think it was. That's a long time. On my 40th, maybe 7 years ago, we went to the Viking Ship Museum in Denmark near Copenhagen, and they have a big reconstruction of this ship that they found sunk beneath the ground. And this thing is unreal. Like, it's huge, but it's so shallow. Yeah. So I always kind of think, like, for them blokes, like at that time, just the courage to get on that and row and sail across the sea, like the North Sea, you know, to come south, whether it's to France or to England or Scotland or wherever you're going, fully knowing that you could either die at sea or when you got there, everybody was going to be trying to kill you.
It must be very interesting. Facts that we probably have no idea about in reality, that how many ships did attempt that. You know, some did manage to get to places like Iceland, and if you look at it on the maps, in those sorts of ships without real direction, it's absolutely crazy. So I wonder how many ships exactly just vanished, never to be seen again.
Just didn't make it. But like that, when the but at the time of my first book there in 865, like a whole fleet of them came. So you're talking 3,000 or 4,000 warriors came from Norway and Denmark to landed near York, and that's a lot. So that's a lot of ships, and like you're coming, you're leaving your home and your family, and you're going to a different place. But obviously, in their heads, they thought completely different to we do. They believed in gods that were kind of ultra violent and encouraged them to battle and to violence. So it was a completely different mindset, and all that stuff is fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
So Peter, I'm interested in timescale. So obviously you said about your first book. How long did that take to sort of fashion and put together? And then what have you learned, and what tips could you give to people about improving that timescale over, experience? So
the first one took a while, because, like I said earlier, it was just kind of a meandering mess. It was kind of like, these lads are here and they go there and they do this and there's a battle and blah, blah, blah. And I was part of a writing group at that time, sending chapters and getting feedback on chapters, which was great at improving style and all that kind of thing. But it really only kicked on after I paid for a structural edit, where I got some really candid feedback, which improved my writing. So I'd say in all told, to get to that point was probably about 18 months to get to that finished version. Then I was kind of sending it off and getting blown out by all the agents and publishers, and then I self-published it. But then after I saw the success of the first book, I kind of launched into the second one aggressively. So I wanted to get that out then within another year, which I did. But what I did then, the key learning then was planning and plotting. So for the first kind of 3 or 4 books, I stuck rigidly to the 3-act structure. So I kind of stuck to that like glue. So I had the story that I wanted to tell and the characters, and then I fit that story rigidly into that kind of thing. So 27 chapters, with each chapter having, a build up to a point of action, and you've got an inciting incident at the start, you've got a twist in chapter 8, and you've got a midpoint, build up to the midpoint, you've got another, all that kind of stuff I made sure was kind of rigid. And that really helped me then when I was writing in the morning. I knew exactly what I had to kind of write and get done, and that discipline really helped me to keep the releases going. And after that, I was able to kind of keep them going quickly, and then when I finished work, I was able to speed up then and get about 4 books a year out.
I was going to say, because on your Amazon list of books, we've got quite a few that are coming out soon as well. So you've obviously got quite a good rhythm of getting these books out in time.
Yeah, I also have, as a consequence of winning the Storyteller Award, I also was offered a trad publishing deal after the fact. So I have a series, or I have 2 series with a publisher, but I also keep doing my own self-published stuff. So what you see on there is kind of, I have a series about King Arthur and a series about the Saxons and the Vikings with them. So sometimes the releases kind of roll over, do you know what I mean? But the self-published, like the one you have up there is the self-published book, and that'll be out, I think, end of August. And the last book I published was a self-published book, which was the first book in that prequel series. But yeah, you have to keep unfortunately, you have to keep the releases going, because with Amazon, as you know, when you release, you get a spike, and then it kind of tails off. So what you're really trying to achieve is like waves. So you're trying to get your next release out before that one dips too far. And when you get your next release out, all the other books in the series get a bump as well. So it kind of, that's the way it works,
And interestingly, quite a few of them have been translated into German.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Was that a surreal thing?
Yeah, it's great. So they're self-published as well, using the KDP service in Germany. So Germany is, after USA and England and the UK, Germany's the next biggest market for KDP and self-published books. So I had them translated myself at my own cost, found a translator and got them done. And they're actually going really well. So we've just released book 3 in Germany. Same cover, but obviously with the German words on it. But they're going really well, yeah.
So what happens in regards to reviews? Do you read your reviews at all? And if so, what about the German ones? Do you have to get them translated?
Do you know what? The Germans are kind of a bit more brutal. The way like normally your book would be kind of 4.5, if you're lucky, 4.8 out of 5, and people are normally quite generous. In Germany, you're doing well if you get a 4. Like that's decent, because they're a bit more brutal. I actually got a very funny review on one of my normal English books there about a month ago. I had a book out, it'd been about a month. So, you're checking it every day to see if the first page of reviews are going to be decent or not, because you don't want a bad one on that first kind of Amazon page. Some fella had gone on there and said, not read this yet, can't wait to read it, 2 stars.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And it was there on the first page.
Well, at least the written review is positive. Yeah, don't do that, people, please. Oh man,
it'd be different if he'd read it. It was the fact that he said he was being positive, saying he couldn't wait to read it, but then gave it 2 because he'd not even read it.
So of all the Viking stuff you've written, is there any part of that history now, or maybe some other aspect of history that you want to write about that you haven't so far?
Yeah, loads. I kind of have, like, when I'm kind of done with the Vikings, I'm probably going to write something about Rome, ancient Rome, do a series about that. But at the moment, I'm still staying in that kind of Viking genre, because that's where all my readers are.
Of course, yeah.
And they're kind of very loyal. So back at the start, I'm a big fan of fantasy books. So I wrote like a historical fantasy book, which was kind of about these time traveling warriors that if they die, they kind of get resurrected again in the future. And they always kind of appear when there's a big significant battle. So like, say, in the time of Alexander, the time of Julius Caesar, World War II, or whatever it might be, which I thought was awesome, right? And that everybody was going to love it. Everybody hated it, because all the people that were reading it were all the Viking people. So they were all like, it's not as good as the others, blah, blah, blah. What's the story with all the magic and the time traveling? So what I do now is I give that out for free when you sign up to my mailing list, But at the time, I thought that was going to be great and people would love it. But so when I write a series of action thrillers, self-published as well, under a completely different name with a completely different website and a completely different mailing list, they're under the name Dan Stone. One of the books is called Lethal Target and Hidden Enemy, and they're like kind of classic action James Bond type thrillers, But yeah, I'd love to write about Rome. I'd love to write about Napoleonic era and all that kind of stuff, ancient Greece, But I'm just worried. I'm just really worried about what's the word? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I was going to say,
sorry, Chris. Go on.
I was going to say, through all the different stories you've written and the different kind of histories and different periods, I guess, if any of your stories could be picked up and optioned, which one would you decide would be the best one?
Probably the Viking ones, because I think the story is probably the best, and the characters are quite good. I think that one would probably be the best one. I'm not sure how realistic any of that stuff is, but I'd say that they would probably make the best. Probably because it's 10 books, it's too much for a movie, but hopefully it would make a good TV show. But we'll see. That's kind of that's a dream that you kind of have to banish to the back of your mind, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Bernard Cornwell, as you mentioned, his series are quite long, and they made a good series on TV. So the chances are always there.
Had loads. Like, he had his Sharp novels, mate. Remember with Sean Bean, they were brilliant. Then he had The Last Kingdom, which was good. They also made a thing about his King Arthur books, but the series was not great, man.
Yeah, but yeah, you never know. It's a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. My question, Peter, was going to be around like being a professional right into a particular genre. Like, what advice would you give to somebody in that field? Because there's probably a lot of people out there that have that idea for a book that they love, like the fantasy one that you really enjoyed and the time travel element and stuff, and then it doesn't do as well as they expect. So they might think, oh, this genre is something that I like, but I've never written in that genre. How do I do it properly, I suppose, is the question that they would have. So what advice would you give to somebody in that instant?
I would say write what you know and you love first, and don't try and cross genres because it's messy. So I would say if you like detective stories, write a detective story and set it in your home city. Like if you're from, I don't know, Leeds, set it in Leeds. If you're from Dublin, set it in Dublin, or wherever you're from, because you know the city. And like, I always try and think, and I think it was Bernard Cornwell that gave this advice in a really old interview, and this is what I always try and do in my books, is obviously you have the research to make sure that everything is on point in terms of what they're wearing, the weapons, the ships they sail in, the way the land looks, what they eat and all that stuff. But try and have like the big conflict. So a big war that's kind of true and actually happened. And then within that, have a mini conflict that your characters are engaged in. So they've got this big conflict. So, you know, if it was a detective thriller, you've got the murder or whatever it is, but then you've got the team interacting with each other as well, and all those kind of nuances. And in my books, it's kind of the big drama of the war they're involved in, but also then the little things that are going on and within the crew or within their rivalry with another ship's crew or whatever it might be. But I would say don't try and for your first book, certainly don't try and be as boring as this sounds, is don't try and be new and innovative. Try and stick to a genre and write what you know, because you're trying to think about what your goal is. If your goal, however, is to write something that's artistically brilliant and that's what your goal is, then write what you want, go for it. But if your goal is to make sales and try and turn your writing into a business, then do some research on the genres, which genres sell well, where are they in the Amazon rankings, which particular books are selling the best, and try and fit within that. Because I sometimes think people can be a bit naive in that they've created something that's brilliant, but it doesn't fit into the right pocket, if that makes sense. But it very much depends on what your goal is. If your goal is creativity and fulfilling that creative need, then do whatever you feel, as long as you don't care about sales. But if you want to sell and turn your writing into your life, then you need to think about the business stuff, unfortunately.
That's great advice. Yeah.
It's tricky, that one, because I always find myself like, I love reading crime, and I'm like, every time I've sat down to write a traditional crime book, I've just got bored. I've been like, oh, I need to throw something else in there, man. Like, I need a bit of magic or a bit of something different. And like you say, it's very rare that you find one that kind of does blend those genres and get it right and take off. So yeah, it's great advice. I'm going to try and take it.
It's hard, isn't it? Like in those detective thrillers, people want that. They want a detective who's a bit grizzled and has got, you know, they used to be an alcoholic or they've been divorced and blah, blah, blah. They've got a team around them that have got dynamic between them. They need like a murder that's taken place in a city somewhere. And it is a little bit formulaic, but that's what people want. So I think if you're writing that, give them what they want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's good advice.
What we're going to do now is we're going to play our KDP advert, which is going to tell you exactly how you can get involved in the Kindle Storyteller Award. As we've learned so far in this interview, it's very, very easy to do. And we've got the proof of what happens if you win that award right here. So we're going to play the ad. And after that, we're going to talk to Peter about, well, we're going to ask him our staple questions, of course. So here comes the ad. And if you are considering it, just do it. Here's the push you need. It's a little keyword. That's all you've got to do. And here comes the rest of the information. And the link is in the description.
And if you've got any questions, think about them now and send them in after this ad, because we can ask them to Peter.
Absolutely. So here you go. Hey writers, what if Hit and Publish could earn you a massive £20,000?
Oh, yeah, imagine. Well, you don't need to imagine, because that's exactly what's on offer with Amazon's Kindle Storyteller Award 2025. This amazing literary prize is back for its 9th year, and it's open to anyone who self-publishes a book like Kindle Direct Publishing in any genre.
Any genre. Yeah, whether you've written your first or your 10th novel, it doesn't matter. If it's unpublished and written in English, then you can enter that award with a chance of winning.
Yeah, and it's really easy to enter. So just publish your book through Kindle Direct Publishing between the 1st of May and the 31st of August, and make sure it's enrolled in KDP Select.
Yep, I think you'd be absolutely mad not to, as a £20,000 prize would help any author boost their career massively. And our previous guest and last year's winner, JD Kirk, said that it took his career to the next level after winning that award and taking it home.
Yeah, and it did. These books are everywhere. So in order to enter, head to amazon.co.uk/storyteller to find out more. The Kindle Storyteller Award is open now. So publish, enter, and get your story out there.
Yeah, we'll support you all the way. You know we will do that. So we'll leave you with this. Good luck. The WCCS, together as one, we get it done. Oh, there you go. That's weird. Let's go back. Yes, there you go. Enter the competition. Please do so. And, let us know if you have done, and we'd like to know your progress, and we'll support you the best we can. So, yeah, with that, Chris, do you want to start us off with the staple questions?
Yeah, so one of our staple questions, Peter, is if you could take any character from fiction and make that character your own, which character would you choose and why?
I think for me, right, I was listening to some of your previous episodes, so I thought you were going to ask this question. But I love kind of Bernard Cornwell's books and David Gemmell's books and Joe Abercrombie and people like that. So I was kind of thinking I might stretch it and have one of each of theirs. So I'd kind of have Uhtred of Bebbanburg from The Last Kingdom. I'd have Druss from Legend, which is the David Gemmell book. I'd have Logan Ninefingers from Joe Abercrombie's books. And I'd put them all into a scenario with some of my characters where either they're battling against each other or they're all on the same side and they've got to defend the fortress against kind of unbelievable odds. Try and pinch those amazing characters and put them all into one nice story.
No, that's a great answer. I think you never know, in the future that could happen. We've had a lot of writers on the show where they've been entrusted to write people's books or take people's characters on. So fingers crossed that you maybe get to do that with at least one of those characters in the future.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, if you could take the ending of anything story-wise, whether that be a TV show, a film, or a novel, and change the ending, what ending are you going to change and why?
It has to be The Sopranos.
Nice.
Did you watch The Sopranos?
Yes.
Do you know at the end, and it's just like Tony's in that cafe or restaurant thing, and then it just goes to black, and it kind of looks like the guy's going to shoot him, but you don't know if that happened or not or what. Like it just left it kind of bizarrely hanging like that. And I think No Country for Old Men ended quite badly as well. They're the two main ones.
Yeah.
What do you think it is then, Peter, with getting the twist right? Because I'm watching a show at the minute called Mobland.
Yeah,
and I've been thinking. I'm on episode 6, and I've been thinking about it all day. And I'm like, is this person going to survive? I want to know if he's going to get him. I won't reveal any spoilers because it's relatively new, but it's when Tom Hardy's character goes abroad to get some people back, and I'm like, is he? I need to know. And obviously the episodes end on like a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So what is that? What's the key there to writing a really good cliffhanger where you want to read the next chapter and then you want to read the next one?
I always try and build it out into my planning. Like I was talking to you before about the structure. So I always know you're going to have a twist about chapter 8. You're going to have your midpoint, which changes everything. And then you've got your final twist before kind of the final battle. So I like to have those in my head. And I think the final twist has always got to be kind of something unexpected or something that is a bit of a surprise. And in terms of cliffhangers, use them wisely. So don't be like Dan Brown, where every chapter is a cliffhanger or it loses its hook to get the reader to say, oh, I'll just read one more, So you use them wisely. But I do try and have a good few of my chapters kind of. So say if there's going to be a big battle or a character's going to face off against their great enemy, don't have that happen in the middle of a chapter. have it that, you know, they face off and blah, 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 and they're ready to go, and that's the end of the chat. Are they going to win kind of thing? That's or like that. You go abroad to rescue somebody and you leave the chapter there, and the reader wants to know then, are they going to be successful against insurmountable odds or not? But if you're a writer, use those tools wisely, because it's the twists and turns that keep people interested. And when I was learning about story structure, like this stuff goes back to kind of like ancient Greek plays. So like it's been around for thousands of years, and therefore people's minds are kind of pre-coded to expect these things to happen. So they're expecting to see an inciting incident, they're expecting to have a midpoint, and they're expecting to have a twist at the end and a final confrontation. And if you don't have that, I think it can feel a bit unsatisfying for the reader. Yeah, you really need to make sure that you're giving that to what they subconsciously want, you know? Does that make sense? Or is that a bit kind of...
No, it definitely makes sense. Yeah. We've got some questions from the audience. I'm going to say we've still got a little tiny bit of time left. So if you have got a question, just send it in any capacity, and myself and Chris will try and get it answered for you. But Sarah sent one here. It says, what advice do you have for somebody writing a historical fantasy fiction novel?
I would say to make sure that it's a bit like that. There are historical fantasy fictions that have been hugely successful, like Outlander, for example, which is on TV, and you know, the time travel back to kind of medieval Scotland. What I'd say is to try and pick a time that people are interested in. So whether they're going back to the Titanic or whether they're going, I don't know, whatever time period you're setting it in, make sure it's one that has popularity. When I wrote my historical fantasy novel, I set it like in ancient kind of Mesopotamia because it was the first one, which I thought was cool, but everybody else thought was stupid because they weren't interested in it. If I could write that again, I would have started it off in Rome or with Alexander, which is a time that people are already kind of super interested in. So that would be my main bit of advice, is to set it in a time or a place in history that people are already invested in, so that you know it's going to appeal to that bank of readers. And that goes back to a little bit about what I was saying before about just having an understanding of what you're trying to achieve first. If you're just trying to write for your own enjoyment, then write what you want. But if you're trying to write something that's going to sell and lead to something, try and have a little bit of a think about how it's going to sell. Like, what readers are going to read my book? How am I going to market this? Can I market it? If it's on the Titanic, easy. There's loads of books on that, and you can try and drag some of those readers over to yours. If it's in World War II, happy days, because that's a whole genre on its own. If it's in the American Revolution, or if it's about people settling in America in, early New York, great. So try and pick a time in history where you can kind of suck some readers across. Or with your fantasy element, have that fantasy element, a subgenre of fantasy that has a existing readership that you can draw in, but don't try and be all things to all men. Try and pick where you're going to target your book so you can market it to those readers. I know that's probably a bit boring, but that would be my answer. Somebody else might say different and write what you love and all of that, but that would be my advice for
I think that's refreshing advice to hear. How do you blur the line between the fantasy element and then the historical element without maybe dragging it too far from one side to the other?
It's a hard one, isn't it? I think what you're trying to do is not change the events that happened at the time, but have your fantasy stuff realistic enough that it could have happened at that time. Like, I don't know, like if you're going to try and put dragons into World War II, that's a completely different thing. But if you're trying to have it that to say, a coven of witches or wizards working in Henry VIII's court to undermine his wives, that's entirely possible, depending on what their powers might be and stuff. So I don't know, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think if you want to write pure fantasy, write pure fantasy. But if it's going to be historical fantasy, you have to be cognizant of the historical stuff as well as the as well as the fantasy elements. Again, that's probably a bit boring, lads. Sorry, but that would be
not at all. I think Dragons in World War II would have been a game changer.
I'm going to write that down because that actually sounds awesome, doesn't it?
Brilliant.
Winston Churchill riding on the back of a big red dragon going over to Nazi Germany.
Wouldn't that be good? I've gone blurry again. This camera is terrible.
Yeah, so obviously we've come to the hour mark now. So we'll ask one of our final questions, and if anyone does throw any in, we'll probably be able to just squeeze one in. But one of our final questions is a bit morbid, but you're on your deathbed, you're looking back at your writing career. What would you be happy with? What is success to you?
Success to me is to be able to do what I love and also support my family. So to keep doing what I'm doing. So to be able for them to do everything they want to do and have what they want, and for me to be able to do what I want to do, which is to come out here and write stories all day. I think that's probably maybe a bit of lack of ambition on my part. Somebody might say they want like a big movie, or they want like a bestseller and the front window of Waterstones or wherever it might be. But I'm really happy to have what I have, which is doing what I love doing and being able to support my family and make that work. Because I have a little theory on this, lads, right, which is a bit of a tangent, right? So if I'm being a bit mental, let me know. I think you get these you get lottery winners, right? I think you can go past what's a healthy amount of success. You know, the way if you won the lottery now in your own life, everything changes. You move where you live, all of a sudden you're driving a sports car and a speedboat, and there's women throwing themselves at you. Your wife's got men throwing them. It never ends well. So I think like a modicum of success where you're comfortable, where you're getting to do what you love every day, I think is quite healthy, hopefully. Sorry for giving you some of my life theories there. That's probably not what you were expecting.
No,
right?
that was a very reasonable comparison, I think.
I think you're right as well. Obviously, to a certain point, like if you suddenly have all those things, and I've seen this actually. We had S.J. Watson on the show, and his first book sold millions of copies. It just went straight out the gate, and he's talked to us and on other podcasts about how difficult that was, because every book after that has not had the same level of success. He's constantly striving to hit that again, and it's like you said, it's almost like winning the lottery. So he's had so much success, won so many awards with that first book, and then he struggled to capture that sort of same feeling, and he's discussed himself about how difficult it is to write that next book and get it out there. And then when he did do that and it didn't sell anywhere near as well, it knocked his confidence massively. So I think you're right in terms of keeping that extra mental sort of like balance between slowly building on that success and seeing the progress. I think it's definitely something to be said there about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, really good. Okay, so just to wrap this up then, Peter, where can people find more information about you? Where can they stalk you on social media and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, if you can find my website at petermgibbons.com. You can also find me on my Amazon page. If you search up Peter Gibbons author, you'll find my Amazon page there where you can follow my stuff and all my work as well. And if you look in the historical fiction or the Viking genre, you'll see my books popping up there, and luckily some of them are still bestsellers, thank God. So yeah, you can find me at all those places.
Well, you will be finding yourself a new reader from my side of things, definitely. I will be delving into that saga of Viking stories. And just before we do wrap this up, one more little comment about KDP, the Kindle Storyteller Award. What final message do you have for somebody who's on the fence right now?
I would just say if you I don't understand why you would not enter it when all you've got to do is use one of your 7 or 8 keyword slots and just write Kindle Storyteller Award in it. Like, it's as simple as that. You don't have to pay anything or go to any crazy lengths to enter the competition or write a synopsis or any of that kind of head-wrecking stuff. All you've got to do is put a keyword in. That's what I did. And I ended up winning, and there's lots of people with that same story. So if you've got a book coming out within the time frame, go for it, because the award isn't decided by the way they come to the shortlist is they look at kind of readers' reviews and stuff. So a lot of it, like getting to that final 5, is based on if people like your book or not if the judges like it. So I'd say if you've got a good story and people are going to enjoy it, then just put the keyword in.
Definitely. Amazing. Anything else from you, Chris?
Yeah, I was just going to pick your brain one last time in terms of being a professional and bringing a readership towards you. I read a really good book by C.K. McDowell recently. And at the end of it, he had a little QR code that you could scan with your phone, and it took you to a video. And then he explained some of the decisions behind how he created his characters and stuff. And it was like a 10-minute video, but it took you to his website, and then it had links to all the books and stuff. I was just wondering what sort of tips you have in terms of putting them in your book to sort of generate more interest in you as an author.
So what I do, my go-to thing is referring people to my mailing list, because I find that is the best. So whenever I have a new book coming out, I'll send an email to all my subscribers, and most of those guys will pre-order the book straight away, you know. But the way I get my subscribers is in every book, I kind of have at the start, you know, if you're going to enjoy this book, please subscribe to my mailing list. And I have like something to give away. So like in the Viking Blood and Blade series, if you sign up to my mailing list on there, you get the historical fantasy book for free. And in my thriller series, I wrote like some short stories featuring the characters. So and then I have that same page at the end of the book. So if people liked it, and on the KDP service, when you're loading it up at the end, you can the link is a clickable link. You know, so if someone's on their Kindle or whatever it might be, they can click that link and go straight to your mailing list and just sign up. And that for me has been that for me has worked really, really well. And I also try and put then at the back of every book the link to the next book. So even if it's not ready at the start, I'll leave it. But when the book 8 or book 7 is ready, I'll go back to book 6 and put the page in and re-upload it, you know. So those two things have always worked really well for me. So it's the mailing list at front and back, and then it is the blurb and the link to the next book at the back of the book, you know. And I find that those simple things work really well. But I love that idea, Chris, about the video and the discussion about the character. That's good now.
Yeah, it was really good. And the reason I mentioned it is I would love more authors to do it, because it was just brilliant. It was obviously I'd just finished reading it. It was a nice little surprise at the end. It did give me a bit more insight into the characters. It made me laugh and things like that. So, and I was like, yeah, when that next book comes out, I'm definitely getting it. So
that's it. And that's what you want, mate. That is all you want, is when someone's finished your book, you hope and you want that they've enjoyed it enough to read the next one. You know, that's really what we're all aiming for.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Hey, that's a great bit of advice there, Chris. I haven't heard about that either. So yeah, that's something we should look into. Peter, thank you so much for joining us and telling us your story. It's a wonderful story. And, you know, I hope it continues, and that success that you've worked on so hard continues to go forward, and I'm sure it will do. So thank you for sharing all that with us.
Thanks, guys. I enjoyed that. Thanks for your time, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Very, very welcome. So from us, guys, we have no show this Friday because we'll be live from the Harrogate Crime Writers Festival Thursday through to Sunday. You'll be expecting to see a lot of live streaming from us from there, and we'll be doing lots of author interviews as well. So yeah, keep an eye out on social medias, and we're going to go and have ourselves a great time. So we'll see you back on this platform for another interview in 2 weeks. But between now and then, if you haven't caught up with 360 plus interviews, I'm sure there'll be some in there you haven't seen that you can catch up with. But don't forget to leave a like to this video, leave a comment, and go and find Peter on social media and buy his books today or tomorrow, whenever you see this. So from us, it's thank you. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.